All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Papillion-La Vista Community Schools Board of Education meeting for June 26, 2023. Under call to order, item A, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to call everyone's attention the open meetings law up on the entrance to the room. And with that, we will go on to section 2, communications. The first part, Dr. Rickley, recognition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey, members of the board. Welcome for our community members that are watching online and here in person. As always, we appreciate you engaging with your school district and your Board of Education. For those of you that attend these events regularly, you know that at least once a month, we try to provide some type of recognition for students that have done something on the field of play, in an activity, academically. Same rule applies for our staff and for our teachers. And tonight's kind of an interesting thing. The timing's not perfect since we're in the middle of summer, so it was difficult to get teachers and students here. We'll bring them back at our earliest possible convenience, but we also didn't want to sit on this information because it's kind of exciting. We received word last week that our Career Academy program, one of the things that we're incredibly proud of, received an award from our peers, and it's our Health Systems Academy in particular. There's several academy programs. Health Systems Academy, which is split into two parts, patient care and biomed. They received the Nebraska Career and Technical Education Outstanding Rule 47 Career Academy program. That is a state award. We did not apply for it. We were nominated by our peers. In fact, frankly, I don't think, and Ms. Siri can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we even knew it was coming. It was announced, and it caught us a little bit off guard. But at the same time, our career academies are exceptional. And as a parent, I can personally attest, having watched my oldest daughter go through the patient care program, it prepared her for life after graduation exceptionally well. So very proud of the award. Shireen, hats off to you and Ms. Jabins and all of our teachers that make this program happen, and we'll try to get our staff and our students in at a later date to properly recognize him. So congratulations. And with that, Mr. Bailey, I would conclude our recognitions for the evening.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, our military advisor, Colonel Cooley, for the last time.
Welcome, Colonel.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, my last trip up to the podium here, so I appreciate the opportunity as always. We packed at our house finished on Friday, so all of our stuff is somewhere in a truck somewhere across the country. I have no idea where yet, but we're going to the Pentagon for our last assignment. So we'll hit 30 years there, and that will be that. So again, appreciate the opportunity. Base has a big inspection coming up starting on the 10th of July. It's called the Unit Effectiveness Inspection. So we're looking at compliance, whether or not we are upholding our bylaw requirements, policy requirements. That does start 4 days after my change of command, so I can say not my problem. But with the base, my team and the base in general are working very hard to be prepared for that inspection. We are in permanent change of station season, so lots of kids moving around. So throughout this summer, through the last of May through mid of August is about half of the permanent change of station, and most of our kids move in that time for obvious reasons with the schools. But a lot of kids moving around. We appreciate the schools, the great efforts that we have from Papillion-La Vista to make sure our kids come into this district and get settled in very nicely. Other changes of command, Colonel Kristen Thompson, the previous wing commander, has departed, and Colonel Mark Howard has taken command. Colonel Aaron Gray is the new vice commander, and we had our first big meeting with them today. We have Operation Backpack on 20 July. It's a great opportunity for our kids. We have very generous donors throughout the community who provide school supplies to get military kids ready for the new school year. We get several thousand that go through there. We've had great school support in the past with information tables, making sure that our new students and returning students know what their requirements, know what they're getting themselves into, and as they prepare for the new semester. We have the air show coming up 26, 27 August down in Lincoln. Going to be a pretty good presentation. We have the Blue Angels, the second best aerial demonstration team in the country. The Marine Corps is bringing in Fat Albert, of course. We have the F-16 demo team, F-35 demo team, EA-18 demo team, and also a Navy legacy flight, including some F-86 and some other historic aircraft. Air Force Academy Wings of Blue parachute team will be jumping as well. No huge construction updates. We are moving forward. We have a few delays. Unfortunately, the Lake Campus is delayed quite a bit. However, the NAOC, National Airborne Operations Center hangar, is nearly 100% repaired. They're operating out of it. The jets are being maintained in there, but they have a punch list of things to get wrapped up. But moving along acceptably. I went to grad school at Florida, so Florida LSU playing tonight. You know what I will be doing later on this evening if you're a College World Series fan. Once again, it's really been an honor to enjoy this partnership, participate in this partnership we have with the schools. Fantastic. Granted, I don't think I'll miss the 4 a.m. Text messages with Dr. Rickley as we talk about road conditions, whether or not we're closing the schools. But nonetheless, really do appreciate this partnership and what you do for our kids, what you do for our base, our community, our military families. Helping us with readiness when our families have robust support mechanisms, and our military members can deploy and go forward and not have to worry about what is happening back in the rear. So again, really do appreciate it. And pending any questions, that's all I have.
Colonel, did you say where your next duty station will take you?
I will be in the Pentagon with 25,000 of my closest friends enjoying public transportation to get there every day. So.
Outstanding.
And if anyone has a house we could rent, I would really be interested in that because we are still homeless. It's a pretty wild housing market out there. So we're getting a little more anxious as we get ready to arrive.
Real estate in the Beltway, I'm assuming, is at a premium right now. So good
yes.
luck with that, Colonel.
They are quite fond of their houses, yes.
We do want to thank you for this partnership as well. I'm sure our audience and people watching at home approaching 10% of our students are military dependents. It's a big part of who we are. It's in our DNA. So to have this relationship with you, the Air Force, STRATCOM, means a whole lot. Thank you for your service and Godspeed on your next leg of your service journey. We really appreciate all that you do.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
I want to say thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is public comment for items not on the agenda. I just want to remind everybody, the individual, when I call you up to the podium, please state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. Ms. Branco will keep the timer as always. The first one you'll hear 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and then 3 minutes will be the next one. We won't exceed 30 minutes. I think we're good. We don't have enough here, so we'll be able to get through everybody. I've done this once. I'll do it again. I'm just kind of mixing them up, so they're just kind of random in here. I do want to say one thing. Last meeting, I was asked by a number of people, including people on the board, and plenty of emails about it. We do have a procedure 8420 talking about decorum. People who are disruptive to meeting proceedings, laugh at, heckle another speaker or district personnel, any of that kind of stuff. If I hear any of that tonight, or if you hear any of it out there, anybody that's at this table, because sometimes it's a little hard to hear up here, please let me know. I will give whoever it is one warning, and then after that I will ask you to leave the room. If you do not want to leave the room, we have now 2 police officers here, and so I'll make sure that one of them escorts you out of that room. So just do me a favor, let everybody speak. I know we have a lot of passionate people needing to speak about a lot of items, and that's fantastic. I appreciate that. Let them speak. They don't need your help either way. Please allow everybody to speak and give them their time without making any comments or doing anything like that, okay? So that's what I asked tonight. All right. With that being said, items not on the agenda here. First up, Ms. Lowen Eby. Yeah, whoever's phone's going off, could you please silence that? I'm not sure whose phone that keeps going off like that. I'd appreciate it.
I have packets. Okay. Hello, my name is Lowen Eby. I can't talk. Let me start again. Hello, my name is Lowen Eby. My address is on the form I submitted. In light of the National Assessment of Educational Progress Long-Term Trend Assessment in Mathematics results released by the National Center for Education Statistics on June 21st, 2023, I created charts for our district in English, language arts, and mathematics, as well as the district's ACT scores using data from the Nebraska Department of Education. I have packets for each board member and 4 extra copies for anyone interested in reviewing the material. If anyone is interested in an electronic copy of the packets and wants to talk with me about the charts and the data, please email me at loan, Loan, .eby, that's EBY, @gmail.com. If I may be of service, please let me know. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
All right, thank you. Next up, Ms. Sarah Laratoni.
Sarah Laratoni, 8816 Granville Parkway. So I spend a lot of time in this chair speaking to you guys about the greatness of Parkview. I love Parkview Heights Elementary. We are fantastic. The staff, administrators, and teachers, the fellow parents who welcomed our family into their community 2 years ago and have made us part of the fabric of this amazing school. I imagine that it's easy to get bogged down in the narrative of everything and everyone at our schools being terrible, so it's important to me that you, as PCLS board members, get to hear real examples of district employees being great. We recently had a Kids Club staffing change at our school, and as such, we will have a new staff member working with our son at Kids Club come the fall. I'd like to take a moment to thank our outgoing director and her staff who still work at Parkview Heights. We have come to know them over the past 2 years, and what they do in terms of caring for our kids and living up to the PLCS motto cannot be understated. Our director, Sarah, was as much part of the care team for our son as was Miss Brakefield and Miss Plymale, Mr. Guthmiller, Miss Watson, Miss Bolby, and Miss Susie, whose last name I am probably mispronouncing. My apologies. Sarah she was our first contact in the morning to pass on critical information about our son's day. Did something happen overnight that the teacher needed to know? Was Dad away on business? Did the dog get hurt? Did he not sleep well? Whatever was happening in his life. And she never failed to listen and take this back to his classroom to ensure that he got his day off to the best possible start. She would check in to his class throughout the day, making note of any struggles that might impact his time after school. She worked with his teachers to make sure he would complete classwork that may not have been completed during the day, ensuring he wouldn't fall behind. Every day at pickup, we knew we could talk to her and get what his day was like and any struggles we might need to work on at home to continue working on with him. And on top of all this, she made the Kids Club program something that he wanted to go to. She planned activities and outings that sparked his interest every day, even during the summer when all he wanted to do was sit at home on his Kindle and play whatever the game of the week was. And if I have to feign interest in Minecraft or Roblox one more time, I'm going to just be miserable. For my son, that's no small feat. So I would like to thank Sarah, the PLCS Foundation, and you as the district for your commitment to our kids and being great. And my family wishes hers the best on her future, and just know that she will be deeply missed at Parkview. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Next up, Mr. David Metcalf.
Hey everyone, I'm David Metcalf at 1409 East Gold Coast Road, Papillion. I I always wanted to talk about the LB 753 today. But I did want to mention, kind of echoing something that Skip said. I started coming to these board meetings in February, and I wasn't expecting there to be like applause and things like that. Applause, booing, everything. And it's a board meeting, and that is one thing that kind of surprised me. So it's hard for you all to concentrate, whenever there's a lot going on and everything. And if there's less of that, that can probably allow everyone here to concentrate a little more. But anyways, I came here to talk about LB 753. So I never heard of LB 753 until honestly like a few hours ago. I'm not the most informed citizen of our school district, but I got an email from, I guess they got my email through my the elementary school, through my school district, but saying, please sign this petition to repeal LB 753 and all this stuff. So I started looking into it. First I just searched in Google, what is LB 753? According to Google, LB 753 commits $50 million in tax credits for scholarships to kids across Nebraska, with priority for scholarships going to kids who live in poverty, foster care, experience bullying, harassment, or other victimizing behaviors, or have a parent or guardian who is serving in the military. But I know that's pretty broad. I just literally searched like what it is. So I had time to read a little more on it. And I guess there's some saying that it's a money grab, trying to take money away from public schools and give it to private schools. But then I'm reading that it's more for the scholarships and for these kids, and that how in like North Omaha is going to be impacted greatly by it, allowing them the choice to go to private schools instead of their local public schools. But anyways, I've been coming here since February. From what I understand, it seems to be a good thing. I don't know. I know there's a lot of passion against it, especially in our local education system. But I would love to hear more about the opposing side on it. If anyone wanted to email me, davemetcalf@live.com. But that's kind of it. Thank you for letting me speak.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, Mr. Daryl Lechner. I don't know if I never look right.
Sometimes it's nice to start out with a good note. We have a lot of great people and great teachers here, and I've been, sorry about that. My name is Daryl Lechner. My address is on the form as before. One of the things I'd like to bring up first off again is we do have a lot of great staff here. We have a lot of good teachers, and what I come up here isn't really to lay more blame, but I try to find solutions so we can move forward and to make our school district even better. I mean, we can sit here and make accusations and hate and no one accomplish anything but hard feelings. I'd mentioned before about a month ago putting cameras in the classroom, holding our teachers accountable for their actions. The reason being I brought this up was because we do have a variety of activists who are coming out of colleges that are being put in positions that are our teachers. And this doesn't mean we have some really great teachers. I was a school bus driver 13 years. I worked hand in hand with principals and other people. I was a prior foster parent. I worked with Project Harmony. I worked in areas where I seen children abused horribly. I did what we can do to make a difference to hold teachers and protect our children and satisfy the parents who are trying to ensure their kids are protected is put these cameras in the classrooms with audio. I was a school bus driver. We went from school buses with nothing to having the cameras and that, and it saved my job at one point because of accusations. Flat out. I had a parent come on my bus, accuse me of beating her child, And I had other students on the bus. I was suspended for 3 days without pay until the police looked at it, my safety department looked at it, the office looked at it, and then I was cleared. But I wasn't ever compensated. I didn't have the additional resources teachers get. We don't get anything. Hey, you want to be a bus driver? Ask a teacher. They'd say, I ain't never going to touch that, which is fine. I mean, it's a labor of love. But one of the things we can do as a community to really move forward and protect our children, I would really feel that that would enable us to where, and this doesn't have to be open to the public where anybody can go into it, but we could have it locked down to where if a parent has an issue, parents could come to school, we could go to through the principals, and that we could sit down together and work through these things. I had a situation where my daughter had a recording device, which she recorded her teacher on 2 separate occasions, where we went into, and the teacher was claiming this was a book ban. I have a problem with that. I addressed it. Principal approached the teacher about it. The next day, the teacher was trying to acquire all recording devices in the classroom. I was like, no, my daughter's a minor. Me as a parent should be able to protect my daughter because I don't want it to be her word against the teacher and then me not have anything. This way, it's the teacher's word against the teacher. My daughter's protected. The teacher can answer for it, and the principal can hold that teacher accountable. That's why I thank you. Do you have any questions or anything? No? Okay. Have a great day, and thank you again for everybody.
Thank you. All right, next up, Ms. Autumn Drickey.
Hi, my name's Autumn Drickey. I guess the thing to say is my address is on the form. I do not live in your district. I'm going to be very honest with you. I have been watching your meetings because I have friends who I consider family who have kids in this district, so I like to be informed. And I think that for the most part, you guys are doing a really great job, and you should hear that. From an outsider who has absolutely nothing to gain from it, you're doing a good job. When I hear things like, let's put kids first, there are things that I wish would be different, and that would be free breakfast and lunch for kids. That would be a great place to start. The great equalizer is to make sure that all kids don't have to worry about their basic needs, because when kids are too preoccupied with where their next meal is coming from, they're not able to be the best learner that they can be. So I would sincerely hope that that benefit would be able to be given to students in your district, because that would really help. I used to teach in a different district, and I did after-school programming. So I say that with lots of training and lots of experience, that when their basic needs are met, they do generally behave better because they can move up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then they can learn and be successful. I would say that I would echo the statement someone else said, just having the structure. I'm a big rule follower, so the fact that there are rules, I always love to lean back on policy, because that's your best defense against anyone saying it's not fair or it's not equitable, because if everyone is treated to the same standard, then no one is really gone after or attacked. And I really hope that there are some things that you guys consider just going forward to make sure that the kids are first and that the teachers are supported, because the teachers who are here want to be here. I know when I was a teacher, I applied to be here, and it was a really strong market, in that everyone wanted to be here. Everyone wanted, the ideal situation where parents supported the teacher in the classroom, because that's everyone's ideal. And we know that that's not necessarily always the case, but it is something that everyone strives for in their classrooms. And it's only helping all the students be successful. And, I didn't get to work here, but if I was, I would be doing my best every day to make sure that those kids are fed, that they have the things that they need, the school supplies. I know you guys opened a house, I think, for all of the other materials. And I just think that's so amazing because there are so many families that can't afford it. And just being able to provide those things, yeah, I'm like, I don't think the timer went off, but I will go. But yeah, just keep doing the good things that you're doing.
Oops, sorry about that. Glad you backed it up. Oops. All right, well, hopefully we can do better next time. Sorry about that. All right, next up, Mr. Ralph Tate.
Does this mean there's no 3-minute limit? Just kidding. Good evening. My name is Ralph Tate, and I live in Papillion. Some people think the Opportunity Scholarships Act, or LB 753, that was recently passed by the legislature has gone too far by taking money from public schools. I encourage everyone to go to the Nebraska Legislature website and read the bills for themselves. The Opportunity Scholarship Act is initially capped at $25 million for tax credit scholarships for the first 3 years and then increases to an annual level of $100 million. The bill provides qualifying children a scholarship for higher quality education than otherwise available as determined by their parents or guardians, allowing eligible children to attend a privately operated school of their choice. Eligible students include those from lower income families, students with special needs, students who experience bullying, students from military families, students in foster care, and students who are denied option enrollment in a non-zone public school. The average scholarship amount is capped at 75% of state per student funding, which is approximately $9,200. The Nebraska State Education Association opposes the bill and is currently engaged in a grassroots initiative to overturn the bill. And it is certainly the right to do so. But consider the following. It's not the parents of eligible students who are protesting the bill. It's bureaucrats who are interested in preserving their bureaucracy, not in providing quality education options for children when public education is substandard. Their concerns are that the act takes money away from public schools and they do not want competition for students. There are several issues with that position. First, the money taken away from public schools doesn't belong to public schools. It is taxes collected from taxpayers. We are the rightful owners of the money given to the state to act in our best interests. Allowing taxpayers to redirect their money to obtain better educational alternatives for their children is their right. It is taxpayer money. Secondly, public schools still win because they still receive 25% of the funding for each student in the program without having to provide teachers or staff to teach them because they aren't there. And thirdly, competition for students should be a welcome thing. It's a good thing. Competition makes us better, makes us work harder, and results in a higher quality product. Those who cannot perform at an acceptable level do not deserve taxpayer support. The total adjusted expenditures in 21-22 for all 244 public school districts was over $3.7 billion. Even at the $100 million level, we are talking about 2.6% of the overall education budget. Hardly an impact. The Opportunity Scholarship Act is a good start, providing additional quality education opportunities for all students in the state is in the best interest of all our children. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. And next up, Ms. Dorothy Reyes.
Hi, Dorothy Reyes, Papillion, Nebraska. I'm just trying to figure out how last board meeting we took $4,000 of taxpayer money and funded a trip to St. Louis for Miss Iman and Miss Green to attend a conference. And after researching, found that Miss Iman is going to be giving a workshop on how to successfully run a school bond campaign. In my opinion, Mrs. Iman is inflating her resume through taxpayer dollars. This is not a benefit to our district or our children. We should not be funding this. If they wanted her to be a presenter, then they should have paid for her expenses and not the $4,000 from the taxpayers. I think this board needs to reevaluate the frivolous spending that it that does not benefit our school district. Next is on the 5,000 series. I just wanted to put a reminder out to parents that the COVID-19 injection is not required. It is only a recommendation. Also, a reminder that the COVID-19 shots do not protect against immunity nor transmission. Please do not be coerced into thinking that you have to get your child injected, because you do not. Another reminder, the state of Nebraska offers religious and medical exemptions from all vaccines on the childhood schedule. Finally, Mrs. Holtmeyer, thank you for all that you do for bringing awareness to parents and the community as to what is going on within our district. I commend you for all your time and all of your effort. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that takes care of the items not on the agenda. Next up, Superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. Members of the board, again, welcome everyone who has joined us for public comment and to hear the reports. We are thrilled to have you here this evening. I hope everybody is enjoying summer so far. We have almost a full month under our belt. It doesn't seem possible that we've been out of school for 4+ weeks. It always seems like you get to the 4th of July holiday and we're getting ready to bring staff back and getting ready to start a new school year. First day of school is August 10th, by the way, just around the corner. Also wanted to remind the board and the community that while our central office remains open during the summer hours, we will be closed next Tuesday in observance of Independence Day, celebrating this great nation's birthday. So if you do need to transact any business, we are open on Monday and then Wednesday through Friday, but we are closed on the 4th. Building projects, Mr. Richards isn't here this evening, but we continue to do a great deal of both summer work with concrete renovation, painting, interior and exterior on several of our buildings, and wrapping up some of the 2018 bond alternate projects, including 5 projects at 5 elementary buildings, which involve both irrigation as well as playground enhancements. So we're really excited. The 3 buildings that are still kind of hanging on, Liberty, Rumsey, and La Vista West, should be wrapped up by the end of this current summer. So we're on track to open this fall with all of our buildings online and ready to go. Also, on behalf of the communications office, wanted to thank all of our staff and all of our parents who participate in the recent surveys. With the parents, we hit the 3,000 mark. We have approximately 7,500 families across the district. We had over 3,000 participate. We'll be sharing those results at a future board meeting. Staff survey also came in, and I don't have the response rate at my fingertips, but it was very, very, very high. So for all of our staff that participated, thank you for taking the time to do that. Ms. Iman did brief cabinet on the staff, not the parent, but the staff results. So we'll be bringing the staff survey results back to the board in July to summarize those results. Then we'll come back the following meeting and do the parent. We've done in the past parent and staff at the same time. Frankly, there's so much data, it gets to be almost too much to make sense of it. So I think we're going to break it into 2 separate meetings. So we'll do staff first and then follow up with the parent. And then if board members have any specific questions after presented the data, we'd be happy to go through it. Also wanted to remind the board and community, summer school is wrapping up this week at both the elementary and the high school level. Thanks to Ms. Siri and her team for leading that. There's a lot of teachers out there that sacrifice a good part of their summer break so that we don't see that summer slide with some of our most vulnerable learners. So thank you for giving of your own personal time during the summer to spend time with our kids that need it. Finally, wanted to remind the board, it looks like we have settled on a board retreat date of Monday, July 31st. That is a Monday that we do not have a board meeting because it is the 5th Monday. So please let Ms. Barranco or Mr. Bailey know if that date does not work. Ms. Barranco previously sent out a survey, so it looks like Monday, July 31st is the winner, but if that doesn't work, we can go to a plan B. As a reminder to our community members are always welcome to attend board retreats. We do not transact business. We only have discussion items. We do not take action on anything, which is what makes the retreat different than our regularly scheduled board meetings where we do transact and take action. So if you'd like to attend, more details to come, but Monday, July 31st. And with that, Mr. Bailey, I would conclude my superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, item E, board reports. right. I do have one thing I need to bring up, and I hate to bring everything down. I'm sure a lot of you know Scott Wellman. He was a long-time sub in the district. He does a lot of things for Carriage Hill. He and Lexi, his wife, have been family friends of ours since our kids were probably 6, 7 years old when we started playing sports together. And Lexi texted me and a handful of other people and then put it out on Facebook that recently Scott was diagnosed with stomach cancer. So, like I said, for those of you that know their family, very, very tough. They're very active. They're very fit and everything else. And to have something like this that came up is very, very difficult for them. What she said both on Facebook and in her text, I think probably sums it up, because we asked what we could do, and a lot of people haven't. And her 2 words were, pray boldly. And I thought that was pretty indicative of them. So because she put it out on Facebook, I thought I should bring it up. Like I said, he is a huge supporter of the district and the schools through his church and also through being a sub. So, like I said, sorry to bring that down, but like I said, I think everybody should know it. And like I said, I think that's what they're looking for, prayers and support.
Lexi's also participated in a number of district-level community initiatives, so they're both.
Yep, she has. Yeah, absolutely. All right.
I have something to add with that. I think I've read it online. If a teacher is going through something or if they're sick, don't we have like a fund that can help them and support them?
Do you mind, Mr. Bailey?
Go ahead.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Holtmeyer. Really important. It's a labor of love for us. This is something that we started, the district started with the foundation, I don't know, probably 3 years ago, give or take. We call it the PLCS Family Fund. It is funded by private donations and by our teachers and our staff who have the opportunity at the beginning of the year to do like payroll deduct. I want to give $5 a month or $10 a month, and it comes right out of their paycheck and it goes into the family fund. And then if somebody's going through a rough time, cancer hits, the house got knocked down by a storm, life happens, they have the ability to make a confidential application to Dr. Settle's office. 2 people and 2 people alone see those applications, Dr. Settles and myself, and we sign off on it. And we try to give a direct gift to help people out. So what you're talking about is absolutely something that we do. So thank you for bringing that up. Much appreciated.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. Next up, item F, committee reports, buildings, grounds, and finance.
We have not met since last meeting. We have a meeting coming up here in early July. 7th. Yep.
All right.
July 7th.
Thank you. Human resources and student services.
We have not met as well, but we will be scheduling a meeting in July.
All right. Thank you. And curriculum and Americanism.
We did meet last week. We had 3 items on the agenda. We were provided an update on where we are on the book review list from those that have requested a review. We talked about the statement of assurance, and the committee signed it as required by the state. So that's an annual thing that we do. So we did that as well. And then we reviewed the policy 6,000, different requests that had come through for potential updates, as well as some of the thought process that the administration had for us on that. The statement of assurance and the policy 6,000 are both on the agenda this evening.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, before, we get into action items and discussion items, we do have some folks make some comments for items on the agenda. The policy is still the same. When I call you up, please proceed to the podium, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes, hopefully without technical difficulties. We'll stick to 3 minutes. Sorry, I just had to give you a little trouble there. And what we'll do, like we've done before, I will have, when we get to that item, I will have the speakers speak first, and then we'll present on that item, and then have board discussion is the way it'll work. All right. That being said, moving on to number 3 action items. Item A, action by consent.
Move to approve the action by consent.
Second.
All right. We have a, sorry, I lost my place there. Motion by Ms. Witt and a second by Ms. Fisher. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you. Next item are the board meeting minutes of June 12th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the board meeting minutes of June 12th, 2023.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion by Ms. Fisher, second by Mr. Madler. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you. The third item under our action items, the city lease on the PLHS baseball and Fricky Field. Before we begin, we do have one speaker, and we'll call up Ms. Autumn Drickey.
Hi, Autumn Drickey. My address is on the form. I promise I won't be long. I just love to see partnerships with the community and any opportunity where positive, caring adults are allowed to or enabled to be a positive impact for the kids, because you never know who it'll matter to most. So I'm excited to see those relationships develop and also kids learn new skills. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Sorry, but who's, let's see. So normally this would be Brett, so. Are you taking it? Okay, then I will go ahead and let you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. What we're asking the board is to take action on an agreement with the City of Papillion regarding Fricky Field. Just a little bit of context, not so much for the board. They'll recall this from our meeting 2 Mondays ago. But for our community, we were going to take action on 2 different leases, memorandums of understanding, one between the school district and the City of Papillion regarding Fricky Field for us to lease that facility for our baseball program. The second half of the action item was to take action with the City of La Vista for the city fields, which provide the softball complex that Papillion La Vista High School plays on. These don't really impact Papillion La Vista South because they have a baseball field and a softball field on campus, but because of space constraints, Monarch has had to sublet its 2 programs out. Mr. Richards wasn't able to make it tonight. He did successfully get the contract with the City of Papillion modified so that it reflects questions from the board about vandalism. Section 12 under premise repairs outlines just some very slight modifications so that the board could hopefully feel a little bit better about if there was vandalism that occurred at Fricky, here's who's on the hook for it. So please, top part of page 4, section 12. Still working with the City of La Vista on the softball complex. I don't anticipate there'll be any issues. I think it was just a timing issue. They weren't able to get it turned around quickly enough. But at the end of the day, we'll bring back the contract with the City of La Vista at a future board meeting, probably July, and we anticipate that it will also have language in there about vandalism. So if it happens, who's on the hook? So doing a poor substitute for standing in for Mr. Richards, but I'll do my best to answer any questions. That's all I have, Mr. Bailey.
I want to thank Mr. Richards for his work to update the contract. I'm happy with the clarity, and he was very communicative. He sent us the information, and we could review it ahead of time. So thank you. I'm happy with the changes.
I'd also like to add that I appreciated his quick response because this was very important to me, but I did go back and look at some similar type of agreements and see that this is kind of in keeping with the same type of flow that we see in others, so I feel more comfortable that this is a standard approach to that. So just appreciated the time that was taken to get us that information and to make the updates needed.
I'll make the motion to enter into a 25-year lease with the City of Papillion for the use of Fricky Field as presented.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Madler and a second from Mr. Lotus. Any other discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you very much. All right, that completes section 3. Moving on to section 4, our discussion items. First up is our legislative update, Catalyst Public Affairs.
Catalyst Public Affairs, joined by Melissa Fike. Melissa does a lot of the work, and I think you met her a while back. We had Melissa and Caitlin do a ton of work for us behind the scenes, and others as well. But I wanted to bring her because she's kind of like the old phone a friend when you, which was, but the reason also is, oh, sorry. So the other reason is also the legislature this year is unique, is the way I would put it. So it hasn't worked the way in traditional years. You have a hearing, you then debate it on the floor of the legislature, and you figure out what's going on, and this bill passes, and there might be one or two other bills attached to it. So that didn't happen this year with the filibuster going on. I don't want to get into all that because you've read about it and go from there. But what happened then, they put all these bills together, so she's the one that gets to sort a lot of this out. So and does a great job. So and then, oh, we have that. Can you click that? So just real quick session wrap up. As I said earlier, this big funnel, I always like to describe, maybe that's not the best way to put it, but it narrows down as you go through the legislature. 800 bills were introduced. That's pretty unique. Last time was 850 in 1980. So a lot of things going on. What that did was prompted them to go to all-day hearings. Again, it's different and unique because they started right away on about the third day, and the hearings kept coming. So a lot of the public sometimes didn't get a chance to respond and put together, read the bills, put together their ideas and thoughts. So early in the session, it was kind of really convoluted what was going on. They tried to do a good job, the senators and the committee chairs, of keeping it somewhat not controversial, but they didn't. So anyway, about 2 weeks in, everyone kind of got in a rhythm going to this and following the bills. As you can see, the one thing on there too, 7 bills passed with less than 40 votes. The rest of the bills got 44 votes or more. So it's pretty much just voted yes on a lot of things. I wouldn't call it a consent agenda session, but kind of was. So again, not a lot of discussion. I want to talk about Christmas tree bills, why that's a problem, just so you know, is when you get rolling like that and you have all these different bills into one bill, it really diffuses any opposition because there's something in it for every one of you, and you all want to see this bill passed and maybe not debate a particular issue in that other bill I didn't like. So we ran into a lot of that, and I personally, following this stuff and being involved in it, it's probably not the best way. I hope that doesn't continue in the future, but it's anybody's guess if it will. So, and I know there's a lot of people behind us, so I'm going to try to sum up, 5 months in a fairly brief time. And the way I'm going to do that is kind of stick to that package we talked about earlier, the 3 big bills that the governor was introducing, and then I'll cover a few others. And then they had the education omnibus bill, I'll call it. So anyways, we'll start with that. Kathy, can you go ahead with the Mervyn bill? So anyway, this 705 was the Education Committee's bill that they threw, I'm going to phone a friend on this one, how many, 24 bills?
I think it ended up at 27, right?
27 bills
I
in
think
this
it's
one
27.
bill. And so germaneness is, I guess you could call it education, and that's about it. So what they did, they threw these in. We highlighted some of these for you that are in there, and if you have, we'll leave time for some questions at the end. But some of these bills that were in there, a lot of the teacher recruitment, retention, that was debated. Everyone seemed to love that idea, like let's pay more, let's get a recruit, and how can we get more teachers for obvious reasons. The student discipline I thought was pretty important that you should know about. Those things are happening about suspended students, and I know, you keep track of that, but those are some of the key ones that maybe weren't very well thought out, and they just passed because I don't think they had enough input from others on that discipline and how to do it. So that was on there. Some of the teaching certificates and things like that. And then Vargas, the FAFSA one is a big one. I think, do you do that already, did we say?
We do not require the FAFSA, though we track it. And for those in the audience or people at home, that stands for Free Application to Student Financial Aid. It basically is that federal paperwork that students must complete before they would qualify for federal aid, like a Pell Grant, for example. federally subsidized student loans, for example. On its face, it sounds like a good thing, but as you see some board members shaking their heads, it can be problematic for lots of different reasons. It puts the onus back on the parent rather than the student because you have to submit tax information to complete the FAFSA.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, thank you for that. So basically, that's a big requirement you have to start doing. But of the other bills, we have gone through a lot of these bills directly with Dr. Rickley and the staff and kind of going back and forth. When we were talking to other people, and I talked like school boards and all that, when you go to your meetings, you're probably going to hear things. People are still sorting this out literally as the Department of Education has a big chore ahead of them because it's not like they put in these bills, here's 225 and here's all the things in 225. They're all intermingled and you got to sort out how 225 would even work. So when they get doing that, we were talking to other colleagues and other people and they're still sorting it out too. So I would put that in there that give us a little grace if we find out different information. We're sure to call Dr. Rickley first, but work with Dr. Settles and Serene and all that, whoever needs help, Brett, and kind of guide them.
I can't hear you again. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And then let's go to 753. Oh, okay, so 753, they talked about that earlier, a couple people in the audience, and they're on. There's a lot of confusion on there, but the different ideas, and of course there's petitions going on and sign it or don't sign it, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But the priority system is important, and you have these slides. I'm not going to go through every single one. This is a very busy slide. But who can get those tax deductions and the amount, what they can go to is in here as well. The key on this thing, there was a lot of debate on this one, by the way. But the key on this particular bill is on those priorities, who's going to gauge them and who's going to decide who gets accepted or not or whatever. So they wrote the law, now you got to go implement it. That's going to be interesting to see how they do that because what they'll have to do is go through a nonprofit, it sounds like, and then it goes from there and then they can decide, they can raise the money and give the scholarships out. So I'm sure there's people right now, probably already exist, that are doing this or going to do it because they're fairly well organized on that. So the other thing too, on all these bills, there's severability clause. So if something is wrong on one of the bills, it doesn't kill the rest of the bill. So if they made a mistake, they kind of covered themselves with the severability clause in there, and that's what they're doing. So I won't get into the merits of the good, bad, or whatever. These are what's in the bill. You can take a look at it, and then, like I say, I'm sure there'll be discussion on these kind of things as we go forward. So let's go to the next one. This is, go back. We did include this in your packet. This shows the poverty levels as they gear up and go to 100%, 300%, 185%. We don't have 185, but this is what the Medicaid looks at for poverty levels. That's a good gauge. But you kind of see, we're not talking a lot of money on some of the families, the 100% of poverty level, but even at 200%, it kind of gets, it's different. You got to have quite a few kids in there or household members, I should say. I don't want to get too far into that, but I did want to show you kind of the numbers we're looking at, who would possibly qualify income-wise on these things. So let's go to the next one. Then the package. This is what we talked about, where if one of these failed, they'd all fail. So all the sponsors of the bills was we're going to give this future fund, $1 billion in the future fund. We're going to give money for special needs kids, the school districts to supplement your special needs, and then also we're going to get the $1,500 per kid. So if any one of those would have failed, then they were going to pull all these bills. So they had to all be held up till the very end. So the 583, you can see the $1,500 in foundation aid. And then also and Brett's not here, I know, to cover this, and I don't want to get way over my skis on this, but the special education is going to be a big opportunity. One thing on that special education is if they don't, let's say they say, okay, we have this amount of money, and in the general funds, we didn't have enough. they have to then cover the special education gap of lack of funding through the future fund. So the education future fund would then cover it. So it's not like, hey, we're going to give you this money, but oh, sorry, this year we don't have any money. We're going to take it away. So that other fund should cover that going forward, which is a really good idea on their part. If they're going to give you that kind of money, then they also looked at LB 589 and they said, okay, we're not just going to give everybody money and good luck, have at it. So there's lids, and the different lids that are in there, the good thing probably for your district right here is the bonding doesn't count. So that's outside the lid limit. And that's a big, big deal in a growing district. So the schools that are growing really needed that in there because for obvious reasons. So part of this was, I'll call it a soft cap, because over the years, last 4 years or 6 years, Senator Breezy and others have said, well, let's put a lid in, strong lid, strong lid. And to Senator Breezy's credit, he's always open for discussion. And I think he was very wise here to say, hey, okay, we'll give you some flexibility. So the flexibility is that the school board could seek an increase if you wanted, and you couldn't make it fit, which you won't have to do, it sounds like. The voters could say, hey, we need to do this, and they need 60% of voters on a petition in any election to do that, so that's a little hard one. And then, so like I say, some of these outs, then there's growth potentials. Is that on the next slide? So the growth, I don't think I went that far into it, but anyway, there's growth potentials based on the size of your school district. So if you're a small district and you need to do it, you get a little more cushion. The bigger districts, it's like 3% or 4% right in there. But there's some flexibility on the size of your district, because a larger district getting a 3% is a good amount of money versus a small district generating 3% couldn't be that much at all. So anyway, the devil's in the details on that. Brett has worked very hard on that, paying attention to what's going on, and again, still sorting it out, what everybody has. But, so that's the big part. And then the school funding, I don't think we have a slide on that next one, on the actual budget. So the $1 billion was in the budget, and it's like an LB 814. So that budget says we're going to put it all in for the cash reserve fund, which they were lucky they had a huge cash reserve fund this year. And then going forward, they're going to put another $1 billion in equalized payments is the intent of the legislature to get to $2 billion. So that, like I say, going into it, you can budget for 2 years and then the next couple of years, but budgets are budgets. They can be changed. You know, this isn't a constitutional amendment or anything. It's kind of a legislative intent. So once they get to that, next year, you know, we'll pay attention, see how the budget's going. And I'm not going to predict how their budget's going to go in the future, but, you know, that'd be foolish. So anyway, a lot of good moving parts on that governor's package that did stick together. I thought, and, you know, I thought they did a really good job of that as far as trying to please everyone. That probably passed 48-0, I think. So who doesn't like that? So anyway, that's kind of the big things going on. Right now, what we're doing too is there's interim studies that are being done. So anybody can look at those. We've identified some of those studies. We then talk to Dr. Rickley or others and follow those as needed. Continue to meet with senators. There are now candidates popping up as well in different districts as well. So we always stay informed of those things. We're always available, as you know, to get way deeper into these as you hear different things. How can we help? Melissa has 15 years experience. 8 of those were with Governor Ricketts in his policy. She's a committee clerk and a committee council, or not council, but legislative committee member. So there's a lot of Caitlin, same thing, worked for 8 years in the legislature. So we have some really good people following these that can kind of get into the details of when we're scratching our heads, like, what did they mean by this? It's going to be hard because, again, usually you go back and say, well, here's what they talked about. They didn't do that again. So now we're all going to sort it out a little bit. So Department of Education will be busy this next few months or few years, probably, for that matter. So anyway, that's what we have. Did I miss anything? Probably.
No.
So yeah, in a short thing, I know you got things behind us, but happy to answer or try to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks for the presentation and the overview of this last session. I know you guys said you're still diving into some of the details and still waiting on the specifics on what was passed for the ones that do have to go to the Nebraska Department of Education and so on to get more specific rules and regulations behind it. But for the next session, which I'm sure you're already thinking about, what are those bills that maybe got held up this time around that we should be keeping a close eye on for the next year's session? And is there anything on those bills that we can be doing now to try to influence one way or the other?
Yeah, some would be, one that we've talked about was to make sure that their awareness on the budgeting. I doubt they're going to look into the TIOSA formula after this for next year. However, it's a good time to be talking about the TIOSA formula and the unique situations that face fast-growing school districts like ourselves. Because sometimes the members of these education committee, they're from a small town. They don't understand that you're putting in 500, 1,000 homes over a course of a few years. It's a lot of kids. So sometimes maybe we'll do a good job educating on that. There's some controversial issues, that are going to be out there that are in education now that didn't get passed. That probably how they deal with those going forward. I don't want to speculate. And I don't even want to get into what those might be, but I don't want to avoid your question because there's bills that are carried over and can be heard next year. The one thing about next year that we are looking forward to is if they don't introduce 800 bills again, which you can introduce a lot of bills, and those will have to have a hearing. If they tone it down and just go to public afternoon hearings, then they will debate in the morning. But I'd be speculating. I have no idea. So a lot of times we just audible. It's like, what's going on? It's like they're going to go debate. So the proper procedure would be debate those early, and then in the morning, go ahead to your hearings in the afternoon, and then it's a 60-day session, so it's a short session. On about day 30, go to full day hearings. But I'd be really speculating on that of what's carried. I could get you a list. We can get a list of Dr. Rickley of the bills that didn't get through and are carried over. They didn't kill any bills, so we started out with 80, some just education bills, and probably half of those might passed, I think. Yeah, probably 35 passed.
Gotcha. Even the ones that don't get through committee, they aren't officially dead, right? The committee could still bring them back up and not redo the whole hearing process. They could just pick it up from where they left off.
Yep.
Yeah,
If they had their hearing, they had their hearing. They won't have another one. Now, there could be a bill introduced that's similar, and it's up to the committee chair if they introduce a brand new bill, and it'll be 800 or 900 because you stop where you stopped and then you go on. Let's say they introduced a bill that's pretty damn similar. It's going to be, let's have a hearing on that one because you have to. But you don't have a hearing on the ones that have already had a hearing. So, but let's say you want to change 2 or 3 words or whatever, or an effective date or something like that, you have to have a hearing. And that's the uniqueness of Nebraska. No other state do you have to do that. But since we have the unicameral, of course, we have to do that. So, go ahead.
I would also say, just referencing the interim studies that we flagged for you guys for education purposes, that's a good sign of bills to come. Not every interim study will have a public hearing during the interim. If it does, that's even a bigger sign that they're going to try to carry that into the session to actually become a legislative bill. So we'll be watching those real closely for you guys.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing on that too. So because they did not have good debate on a lot of these bills, I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be a bill to clean up a bill, and it will be a major bill. And it's kind of like, oh gosh, how could we leave that out? Well, you did, because no one had a chance to talk. So they can come back and change any of these bills. So what we just showed you, they probably left out some pretty important things, is what they're going to find out, because there's just no way the bill drafters and the lawyers and all that could have kept up with all of these changes that were going on. Even though you say, oh, it's slow, what are they doing? They're having a filibuster. All those staff people have to keep working on all the amendments. It's not like those are fake amendments that you're just throwing away. they actually have to do things for them. So the staff was unbelievably good this year, under a lot of pressure on the finance and everything else. But those will be the key things I'm sure they'll go after right away too, and say, hey, how can we fix these bills? Because it's not just in education, that will be in other things too. But education will have I guarantee, several of those fixes.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tim and Melissa, Sue-Ann, please, jump in.
Sorry, I have just an observation and maybe a question. The FAFSA law for public school students to complete that form, does that apply to the kids who receive the scholarships to go to private schools because it's public funds?
I don't know. It could be one of the things. I don't know if there's a question in it or not, but
well,
if you say,
I don't believe so. I believe that only applies to PK-12 students in a public school. I'm Shireen's shaking her head at me. So,
it will.
yeah, we can take a look at that, but
That is, to me, the biggest concern about public funds go to public school students, and we have a lot of rules to follow, but they don't seem to apply to the kids who go to private, and that's fine. That's a choice for the parents to send their families there. But if they're going to receive public funds, in my world, they would have the same rules to follow as we do in the public schools.
Yeah, and I don't want to, I'm not taking sides on this one or another. If somebody who's against that or for it, they're probably going to find flaws in that bill. And I don't mean anything against people writing it or whatever. They're just going to find technical flaws in that bill, or because every big major piece of legislation is going to have oh gosh, we need to tweak it to make it work. So there will probably be battles both ways on that, and whatever. So that's just one example. You brought it up, but that would be a pretty good example where it might be having to get fixed. Nothing. It's just we're all human. People make mistakes on these things, and it's in a rush, and it's a tough environment. So
I do believe in that FAFSA. They can opt out of doing it at the end. Yes. I do have a question. I went to the legislative update that was held with the NASB, and they were talking about the TOSA, and I have the paper in case anybody wants to make a copy if they didn't go to it. Mr. Kowash said that he was really fighting for the growing districts because this would impact them negatively. I believe that's what he said, and it was Gretna, Elkhorn, and Bennington. How would that affect growing districts?
which number was it?
583. The TO, do you want to look at this?
Yeah, I think they fixed it with, first of all, a little bit of the bond forgiveness not being in the formula. So some of the formulas probably, when he says he's fighting for large districts, I don't know what exactly he's fighting for or what he's talking about in that. We do work closely with him and have talked to him.
It's Sanders' bill.
But
At the request of the governor. It's
Yeah.
Sanders' bill.
Oh, the foundation
Yes,
aid.
yep.
Yeah, that would be, because I guess some of when you get your property taxes coming in, probably what he's saying is they got a huge property tax base, and it's unequivalent to what we would have. So we'd be paying more in our property tax base possibly. So it's also needs minus resources, or resources minus needs equals funding. So a lot of times they have huge resources, and now they're still getting aid, foundation aid. That could affect the districts long-term with a ton of kids that aren't getting the aid. But I don't want to get too much into that because he's the expert on it.
It's a great question, Ms. Holtmeyer, and basically 583 Sanders bill adds equalization aid, $1,500 per student. It would be basically budget neutral for us. We don't gain, we don't lose. Budget neutral. We don't gain, we don't lose. The reference to the fast-growing districts, your Benningtons, your Elkhorns, your Gretnas, those districts are like Papillion La Vista that are expanding and they're larger, and we get equalization aid. The purpose of 583 is to start funneling state money into some of your smaller rural districts. They're getting state aid, special education aid, transportation aid. Typically they get some type of meal reimbursement, but they're not getting the TOSA equalization aid. So 583 is designed specifically to address those smaller, in some cases not only are those smaller rural districts not growing, they're going backwards. So whether you like that component or not, again, there's good reasons on both sides, but 583 was specifically designed to get $1,500 per student to some of those smaller rural districts whose enrollment may have been stable or declining. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so I apologize. So the answer within the TOSA formula, but the problem was they don't think they're getting, oh, we got a bigger burden than you do on our property taxes, when actually they have larger resources. But unfortunately, that resources in their mind, well, not their mind, it's ag land. So fewer people are bearing a huge brunt, where ours is more spread out on the property tax level because we have a lot of homes. Well, a farmer with 3,000 or 4,000 acres is paying a disproportionate amount of taxes is in the rural areas. So that's why, and Senator Breezy, who writes all these things, is a large farmer. So he's very familiar with what's going on. So then the rural districts do that. But anyway, that within the formula, but the good thing, that's what we're talking about. There's another bill out there that next year when we're educating them, we need to educate them about the growth factors and how much we're growing. Because like I say, they sit down there and they don't really see it. So we need to do a better job probably of getting them here and saying, this just came in the last 2 years. And we just had to build 6 schools or whatever the case may be, because look, all the bonds that are going on for schools. So, anyway. All right, sorry for the length, but
Thank you very much.
appreciate the
Thanks,
opportunity.
Melissa.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
Tim. Appreciate your hard work. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the Athletics and Activities Yearly Report. Mr. Van Akron and Mr. I'm going to say Govier. Did I say it right? Govier?
Welcome, Dr. Govier.
Close enough, all right.
Mr. Van Akron.
Well, thanks for having us. Glad to be back. Mr. Govier's first time, so he wants me to take charge, so I'm going to take charge.
Show me how it's done.
This is just a recap of the year with both schools and for athletics and activities. We had another good year all the way around. It's our general slide. It talks about our relationship with the NSA and the National High School Federation as well. All have common approaches and goals, student-centered, educational, lifelong values, opportunities to grow and develop, well-rounded students involved in multiple activities and multi-sport. That's probably one of our bigger challenges at both schools to get kids out for more than one sport. 2 is doable, 3 is very, very hard. So recruit and retain those students, and coaches and sponsors working together. We have some overlap with a lot of training, especially in the off season, and especially this time of the year. And to get them to work together sometimes can be a challenge, but our coaches do a pretty good job of communicating with each other. So here's the enrollment. When I have at the top, what we have at the top, Class A, 32 to 34 schools. It really kind of depends upon the sport. We have some growth in OPS. We have some now in Gretna and in Elkhorn. And so there's, depending on the sport, but we're right around 34 schools in Class A. So that was our enrollment last year. We were 13th, Monarchs were 16th, and then heading to the next year, we're 12th and 14th, so we're a little above the middle there. We had a great year with both schools. The NSA has an award called the NSA Cup, which you get points for anything that you place in the postseason, both athletics and activities. So it has to be NSA sponsored. So the Titans finished 9th, Monarchs finished 8th, we both in the top 10, which is very good. And there's the girl and boy breakdown. So we both had a great year. Go ahead. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm warm now. Just a breakdown of some of the successes we had. Monarch-wise, we were journalism state champions for Mr. Rahacek and his crew. We'll have a picture of those kids here at the end of the slide. Multiple individual state championships. I think you saw that with our spring seasons. It was good to see a couple of our tracksters come in here and celebrate that with you guys. And then also along with that, many all-state, all-conference award winners as well. So we'll have some additions to our wall of fame there. Titan-wise, then they were champions in 2 sports as well. Volleyball, they beat us in the semis. So that stung a little. And then girls track, they had a very successful year, very strong team and won that as well. So very good year on both sides.
The activity side of things, obviously there's a lot going on with activities with cheer and dance and choir and band and DECA and skills and all those types of things and our play productions. And so, it's a lot to keep track of at times, but there you can see, I'm not going to read all that for you, but ROTC had a good year as well. We kind of were under the radar with ROTC there for a while, and we're low on numbers, and we've now jumped back to where we have been. We had to bring back the old guard to help us out a little bit, but Mr. Nichols did a great job of getting our numbers back up again. So, I think if you look at our 2 schools, we have some good success with our activities and our athletics, which is sometimes a little bit rare. And we're very lucky in that area.
Yeah, on our end then, for the Monarchs, at the Big Fish musical that we had 2 outstanding performers that are awarded there. They were finalists. They had the opportunity to go to New York City, James Arasser and Sahara Pandit. So to see both those finalists there, they competed at the Orpheum at the end of the year. That was kind of a cool thing and unique for us to have those 2 there. One thing that I realized when we were putting this together that wasn't listed then was Mr. Van Akron was Region 2 Athletic Director of the Year too. So I'll give him a little credit for that.
Thank you. Celebrations for the year. This was year 2 for girls wrestling, fully sanctioned 21-22. Monarchs had a tremendous year in girls wrestling. We're still trying to grow our numbers at our place. We had 6 or 7 this year, girls wrestle. We're hoping to grow that and maybe double that number next year. We think we can. We use a landing. Both schools use a landing for winter conditioning, and spring sports use it as well. We do have our softball tournament out here September 1st and 2nd. You guys have one in September as well. So the landing is a good use for us. It's a good partnership. Unified sports continue to grow. Soccer, it's sanctioned the NSA in track, swimming. What am I missing? Bowling. Yeah. And then we have some individual things that we do. Play each other in basketball, which is a great event. It's always a good crowd, and kids love it. And then we had 3 state championships this year in our team with journalism and volleyball and track. So
challenges for us then. Scheduling, it's tough, lower level. There's some different dynamics in the metro. Finding teams that have competitive levels in certain sports all the way through makes it a challenge for us to pick up some of those. We're very fortunate that we do have a lot of people who will participate. We fill in all those positions to find and fill an 18, 20 game schedule is a challenge for us. Coaches and sponsors, as you know, even with teacher shortage, that carries and trickles right on down to us. Best case scenario is we have our teachers and coaches in the building at the same time with their kids, so they can be with them throughout the day and be more than just a coach. But it's very, very difficult when you are short teachers, and tough to find those people, to find them to coach as well for us. Official shortages, depending on the sport, it's a real concern. How that impacts us, we have to schedule differently. Double headers, combining games, things like that. And maybe sometimes forcing people to play earlier than what you normally would ideally like. Those are some of the situations that you see when you kind of wonder why they're playing so early or maybe so late. It's just because we needed officials. Cost, just like everything else, costs are rising. So running those events and things like that, it's very, very difficult. It's narrow. We don't make a lot of money. We're lucky just to break even with some of the things that we have. So costs are a real stress for us as well. And then just adding other clubs and non-sanctioned sports outside the building. Those are all facility demands. We want to support our community in our feeder program. So putting a strain on us and our schools to schedule and accommodate all those people as well is another challenge for us.
As far as Jeff and I, what we're in charge of and what role we play within our conference in the state, we host Metro Cross Country out at Walnut Creek every year in October. We also host Metro Volleyball, both schools do in October. We help with state baseball tournament in May, and then throughout the year, if we're fortunate enough, we host district events. So pretty busy all year long. We play a pretty good role, important role in the metro and in the state. Other roles, I'm on the NSI AAA board. It's supposed to be a 4-year term. This is year 6 now for me, so this will be my last, I can tell you that. I'm also part of the Metro Conference Executive Committee, and then we're part of District 2. And again, the state baseball at the NSA takes up a lot of our time at the end of the year. So,
All right, moving forward, the Metro is growing. We welcomed Gretna East into the conference. They'll be a little unique this year. We're in our scheduling cycle. We have one more year where we're going to kind of stay within this little modified schedule that allows Gretna East to still compete at a Class B level because they won't have a full school there yet. But then following that, we'll be in a 2-year cycle. We're looking at expanding and adding teams. Elkhorns, the Benningtons, and those will expand, hopefully, our conference down the road. Class A is growing. Budgets, trying to figure out ways to get our facility out. Using comparisons, going through COVID, it's just difficult. People aren't using our facilities as often as we'd like. That's a great revenue source for us, so that's a challenge for ourselves to get that out there and make it a little bit more accessible and available. Cashless events, we agreed to disagree on that. It's a unique thing. Football games, large events like that, if you go to a state tournament, that's what they're using. So it is something that's out there. I still like to have people and go old school with cash. So, but it is something that you're seeing when you go to those events. Mental health training for our athletes. Both schools have plans to bring in and incorporate. Dr. Woodman has a program for our school specifically, and he works and he'll talk to our athletes about mental health, parents, and things like that to help support them. We also brought in some outside people and supports as well that talk specifically to our PL club. It's just the other side of athletics that's there. It's real, and trying to get them supported beyond just what you would see in a classroom on their athletic arena. And then going forward, we're excited about the bond getting passed. That's a cool thing for us. It's much needed. You look at the comparisons and the growth, especially in the new schools that are there. We've always taken pride in our buildings. We have 2 beautiful high schools. We feel the equity is exactly where it needs to be now. And to showcase all those schools and those things that we have in our district, the athletics and facilities that are there where our community's out in these arenas is equally important to us. So I feel that this is a chance for us to get back to where we need to be or where we always have been as a district, and something that we can continue to be proud of.
Here's some pictures we picked out throughout the year. We have volleyball there for us and track. I love the picture in the upper left. It's one of my favorites, probably.
That's our girls wrestling coach.
And that's your state champion hurdler there as well. Yep. Is that right? Here's the fine arts side, state journalism championship down on the bottom left. All of our choirs on the bottom right, our band. And then that's your young man in drama there in the upper left. So,
questions?
All right. That's it.
Well, I have a comment first. I absolutely love the emphasis on both athletics and activities. And the success that we're seeing across both of our high schools, whether it be athletics or activities. We all know not all students want to be athletes. They want to have the opportunity to do other things. We also have students who want to do both. And I think both schools do a great job of allowing students to be involved in athletics and activities or one or the other. I can't say enough about how many times I hear parents say, I love the fact that my student doesn't have to be one or the other. So that is a credit to the 2 of you and the school district as a whole. So thank you for that. You did mention, I do have questions, see? You did mention what's the official shortage, and my question for you would be, what's the biggest challenge with the official shortage? We hear a lot in the news all the time about what creates it, but what do you, both of you, feel is the challenge for that?
Probably a couple things. One I would guess would be parents. I think you'll hear that a lot. I don't know that coaches are, there's probably some coaches out there too that make it difficult. Money is another one. For the work they do, the time they put in, it's probably not a lot of money. Yes. And so when they have a normal job and they want to go home at night and they decide they want to referee or officiate something, they want to be able to do their job and walk away, and that doesn't happen all the time too. So I don't know anything else you want to add to that.
I would just add, like, youth sports in general, you know, basketball-wise, you can go out on a weekend and you can, you know, officiate 6 games, and it's ease, the convenience, it's during a time where you might be around 50 to 100 parents is all. So there is a saturation of youth sports, more so than even when I was coaching. And so to be able to officiate in a different atmosphere that's maybe not as intense or doesn't have as much meaning, you know, that pulls a lot from us as well.
You've mentioned several things there that I think are things that this district, as well as others, we need to focus on that and see what we can do to help with that. It is a shame that the current environment is keeping some people away from being officials, because this is really all about our kids, and you can't have games without officials. So thank you for that information. You mentioned also the cashless events, trying to move away from taking cash and forcing other opportunities. I'm a cash user as well. I do like having cash with me. However, what I would say about that is there is nothing worse than going to an event and finding out once you get there, they won't take your cash. So it is imperative that if we ever move that direction, that communication about that be preemptive and very clear to people so that they don't get to an event, find a great parking spot, and then have to leave because they don't have cash. And maybe they didn't have their card, or when they have cash, but they didn't have their card with them. So I think communication is incredibly important, but I like cash.
I just wanted to say my son, I said it last meeting, but my son attended the baseball camp, and they were fantastic with the kids. I don't know if they were juniors, seniors with the boys, but he was ecstatic that he was playing on the big field and with all the big guys. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them because they did really good. Another thing I had seen on Facebook, the firework tents, some of them are going to support the athletic department. Do you know which ones those are so people can go out and support them?
Well, I know band has one on our side. I'm not sure. I don't know that any of our other sports do, to be honest with you. But
I thought I read Papillion South Athletic and then Monarch Athletic. Or the Boosters,
yeah,
okay.
The Booster Club, yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know if you know which one it was so people could go support them.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay. No, that's okay. Thank you.
You bet.
All I have, and I think I say it every year, but obviously with a new face in the seat, I love that, you know, we are a competitive district. We always have competitive matches between our programs. But what I love is the collaboration. I know prior ADs going years back, I mean, that's been yes, we're competitors on the field, but we are one district after the match, after the game. And to see you guys, you know, how hard you have to work together and utilize each other's resources and bounce ideas off each other, you know, it just says a lot for your character and how you want our programs to be run in this district. So much appreciative as a parent and watching a lot of activities in athletics, to know all the work you guys do and how many hours you put in, but then you're also willing to professionally collaborate to make this whole district great. It's very appreciative.
Thank you. I would tell you, Jeff's first year in this position, it's different. It's a lot. And he relied on Jason a little bit, and Jason was taking on a new role. So he and I talked more probably in the second half of the year than we did talk early. And it's great. It's great to talk and, you know, make sure we're on the same page and we're doing the same things for the most part. So
Thank you very much.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next up is item C, Statement of Assurance, Americanism and Multiculturalism Education. Ms. Siri.
Good evening, Board of Education. As you may recall, in January, we had our American Civics hearing, and this is a follow-up to that 6 months later, as we are delivering the Statement of Assurances. So kind of, tonight I put together a folder. I'm going to call it a folder of reminders, because these are all things that you've seen before, but they're all things that relate directly to this. So in the board summary sheet, I also listed out some examples, but basically this is a requirement of State Statute 79-724, and this is where we take all of the requirements of Rule 10 that's in Rule, and we outline those to ensure that we are getting those completed and doing the best that we can for our students in Papillion La Vista Community Schools. And then at the end of the year, I send out a checklist to our principals, and they go through and check off that they have completed every one of those rules. So tonight, what you're going to find in the folder, like I said, kind of reminders, is that Statement of Assurances. So if you haven't seen that, because I know, Brittany, this is new for you. So that way you have a copy of it there for you that you can see. I also included the policy. And then I always try to provide an example of the American Civics, the social studies requirement, and the multiculturalism piece. So for multiculturalism, I included a copy of our textbook, one of our textbook instruments that we use, and you can see in there that we do make sure that when we're selecting a resource, that our students can see themselves in that resource and that it doesn't have bias. So I included that for multiculturalism, and then the social studies, you'll see the last page, I included the secondary so you could kind of see. Keep in mind that that's old, that's not the current changes because it's from this past current school year. And then in this folder, I have the assurances signed by the principals, so it's that same document where they have said, yep, that this year we met Rule 10 in those assurance statements. So you're welcome to look at that afterwards if you'd like. But otherwise, I'll submit it, and Kathy will file it as we submit our Rule 10 report here June 30th. So, questions on that particular piece?
I have a quick question. I had emailed you before, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, about a multicultural class. Is this the one where the parents have to sign off on it for their child to take it?
So the multicultural class is an English language arts class. It's just the title, the word is kind of the same. It's just a literature class that represents literature of all different types of cultures. Mm-hmm. And parents sign off on the registration when a kid signs up for a course.
Okay.
So
Okay.
of any.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right. No other questions? Thank you very much. All right, item D under the discussion and informational items is policy 6000 instruction, and I do have a number of comment sheets, so I had kind of mixed these up, and so we will start with those, and then we will go from there. So, and I'm going to screw this first one up. So it's Linda, is it Vermuter or Vermuten? Am I close?
Good evening. My name is Linda Vermuten, and my address is on the sheet. Pornography in the schools? You got to be kidding me. That was my reaction when I heard this was going on. What? This is supposed to be a safe place where we do all in our power to protect our children. This is removing a protective barrier when we expose them, because there are crucial long-term effects, irreversible long-term effects on children when they are exposed to pornography early and repeatedly. I don't know about most of those books. I've just started a little research. I wonder how many parents are even aware these books are there. Now, let me talk to you about some of those long-term effects. What begins to happen is you physically change the structure of the brain of a child when they're exposed to pornography early on. Now, you say, well, a book can't hurt them, but a book can, because once you read those words and you have that image in your mind, you can never erase that, ever. We're putting ourselves on a trajectory for porn addiction like we have never seen in our nation. Having sat with people that struggle with addictions of many kinds, particularly pornography, it is extremely difficult to help those people lead what we would call a normal life. How does this change the child? It changes, like I said, the neural pathways. So first time you do something, it's a little pencil line. Second time you do it, it's laid together and twisted together. Third time, it's twisted even more. So over time, you no longer have a line, but you have a huge cable that without even thinking, your mind goes down that path. So it impacts every area of your life because it changes a child's thoughts about sexuality. What is sex? It becomes seen as something selfish. It becomes seen as this person is an objection of my gratification, not of an exchange of love. Consent isn't even something that is needed. When we look at the world of the offenders and we talk about juvenile sex offenders, what happens there is when we were conducting some research there, 15 of these young men, every single one, had been exposed to pornography early in their lives, about 10 or 12 years old. So now they are 16 years old and they're being prosecuted for sexual assault on somebody else because they act out what they see. It changes the way they treat other children because they want instant gratification. We already seen the impact in our nation from these kind of policies and these kind of books being in our schools. There's 3 states already that have had people that have been attacked on school grounds. One young man attacked a lady in the school bathroom, was moved to another school, and did it again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your time.
All right, next, Ms. Laura Bartlett.
Hello, my name is Laura Bartlett. My address is on the form, and I have 2 elementary kids in the district. Recently, I've been watching the school board meetings and hearing a false narrative that porn is being allowed in our schools. These claims are not only ridiculous, but they're generally brought up by parents without kids in either the school library in question or even in the district. These claims are generally a copy-paste from the right-wing hate group like Moms for Liberty. The books in question are overwhelmingly about LGBTQ populations and are being parroted out of context by these extremists. The district already has mechanisms in place to allow a parent to ban a book for their own child. As the board is working to revise this policy, I would suggest that book submissions only come from parents who have children in the school that has the book in question. Having other parents, especially those without kids in the district, dictate what my kids can have access to takes away my rights and liberties as a parent. Related to only allowing actual parents in the district to submit these requests, I also have concerns that members of the community and a member of this board are here spewing hate propaganda put out by Moms for Liberty. For those who don't know, Moms for Liberty is a group who has been deemed a terrorist group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. This group promotes far right-wing extremist views that target LGBTQ+ individuals. These values should be nowhere near a public school board. Allowing individuals in groups like this to have a say in matters that relate to our district is politicizing our district. If these individuals want to promote white nationalist anti-LGBTQ+ values, they should do so at a private school, not within a public board. Let parents who are against these books ban them for their own children, not mine. Book bans take away my right as a parent. And remember, the Nazis didn't start with gas chambers. They started with book bans. They banned books that spoke out against the Nazi Party and books that discussed LGBTQ issues. Sorry. And yes, LGBTQ books were around in the 1930s. Please do not make policy changes based on a loud, uneducated group of people who do not have children in the district. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, Ms. Kay Wagner.
Hi, how's everybody? I was getting a little tired there for a minute, but it got a little
Excuse me, before you start too much, can I get your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kay Wagner. Sorry. Hi, I'm not from, and my address is on the form. I am not a parent in this district. I am simply here because I've been hearing a lot about the things that are going on in this Papillion La Vista schools, and I wanted to quickly just kind of say some of it's kind of embarrassing. I have a friend who was looking to move to Nebraska, and I said, maybe look in Papillion, good schools, great sports, and it was automatically, oh my gosh, is that one school district who has that school board member who spoke at the legislature, and I was like, oh wait, maybe. So anyway, really quickly, I just wanted to remind everybody, because we're talking about libraries and your policies, that there is a school board member who actively is not being as supportive, probably, towards her school district in public places as maybe some parents would like to see. And there are parents in other districts who are paying very close attention. They're watching right now on YouTube live. Just showing support to the really good parents of this district and to the wonderful board members of this district. The Omaha metro area is aware of what is happening. The good parents in other districts want to show our support. So we will be actively attending meetings and making sure that the voice of reason is heard and that you feel the support and the love from your communities around here. So that's about it. I just really wanted to let you know that it's incredibly important to listen to well-educated professionals who understand library policies and who understand the importance of diversity and books that reflect a student's self. And that's it. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, Ms. Autumn Drickey.
Hi, Autumn Drickey. My address is on the form. So I had intended to come up and talk about how important it is to let the professionals, not the self-identified professionals, but the actual professionals be in charge of what is and isn't productive in schools. But there's just a lot. So I would echo the desire not to take away one parent's rights because people don't like something. For instance, the Bible has plenty of stuff that I might not necessarily want my kid to read out of context, but some people like to go to church every week and read the Bible. And I wouldn't, excuse me? And I wouldn't want to tell them what they could or couldn't do with their child because it's their child, and we really, as much as we want kids to be the focus, there are parent opinions, and as long as there's things in place that allow the parents to have that control of what their kids do and don't read or see or whatever, let them use those avenues and not put their beliefs on others who don't agree. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Mr. Ralph Tate.
Thank you again. My name is Ralph Tate. I live in Papillion. As we know, the district has spent a significant amount of time, resources, and effort in getting the recent $130 million school bond approved. That was a tremendous effort on the part of the administration, staff, and volunteers to coordinate meetings, chat rooms, mail flyers, and do 100 other activities that were needed to be successful. The key was communicate, communicate, communicate. It truly exemplified the district's mission as an organization dedicated to greatness, to prepare all students to realize their unique aspirations, delivered by highly qualified, passionate educators through bold partnerships with families and community. As you're also aware, there have been a number of parents and community members over the past several months who have expressed deeply held opinions regarding the appropriateness of certain books in school libraries and even the very process for selecting books. Some district members consider books in question to be acceptable and see no issue with them. Some of us find them to be either pornographic, obscene, or age inappropriate. Regardless of which side of that discussion you are on, what has been repeatedly requested has been an opportunity for dialogue and discussion with the board and the administration, looking for solutions to differences and a reasonable path forward. What we have heard so far has been deafening silence. What happened to the organization dedicated to greatness, preparing students through bold partnerships with families and community? Where did it go? Is that just the mission when you want it to be, but otherwise you turn it off like a light switch? If the prime motivation for these bold partnerships is money, then perhaps LB 753 hasn't gone far enough to provide educational opportunities outside of public education. When public education seems to be focused more on ideology and indoctrination, when we see educational standards and performance slide year over year while the bureaucracy needed to support the system continues to flourish regardless of performance, then perhaps it's not just those parents and guardians who have financial hardship that need alternatives for their children outside of what public education has to offer. This past spring, Iowa's Governor Kim Reynolds signed into law a $345 million program creating tax-funded education savings accounts that will be available to all K-12 students statewide with no income limits. Money deposited into those accounts can be spent on educational expenses such as tuition and fees in private and religious schools. Margaret Mead said, "Never depend upon institutions or government to solve any problem. All social movements are founded by, guided by, motivated, and seen through by the passion of individuals. The choice is yours, but the time to make that decision is short." Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next, Ms. Sarah Laratoni.
Thanks for letting him know about the mic, by the way. We couldn't hear him, so I appreciate you telling him to speak in there. That was very nice of you. Sarah Laratoni. Oh, sorry, I'm like, and now I'm not doing it. Technology. Can you hear me now? Awesome. Sarah Laratoni, 8816 Granville Parkway. I worry that book bans are becoming trendy buzzwords and the boogeyman of board meetings, this board meeting also. But like everyone else who gets up here and speaks, as a parent, I'm deeply passionate about this. I do not believe that banning books and restricting the ability of our librarians to do their jobs and choose appropriate, diverse, and interesting material that our children have access to in school libraries. This is just too important to not speak up about. The district's policy 6202, multicultural education. This is not explicitly about books, but books are there if you read between the lines, and I no pun intended on that, sorry. A memory of Ozark hunting culture is really a lesson in the value of hard work, compassion, and empathy towards others. Piggy and Ralph epitomize justice, loyalty, honesty, honor in the face of peer pressure. Jim Burden spends a lifetime relearning deep-rooted prejudice against his neighbors simply because they did not emigrate from the correct European countries. As does Adam Trask, who is finally able to see Lee for the person he is rather than who society says he is after a lifetime of tragedy and violence. Jim Nolan and Mac guide us through migrant camp life and the strife of organized labor in the 1930s, while Amir and Hassan, Rodion Raskolnikov, come from cultures that demand sacrifices in the name of family and self, and tell us about the toll they take and how much of ourselves we are willing to give away. The books of my elementary and high school education feature heroes that are overwhelmingly white, so they do not necessarily speak to this policy's goal of multiculturalism. But they do have examples of racism, prejudice, bigotry, discrimination, and gender bias. My favorite book of all time is East of Eden, and this one work alone contains all of these examples within its pages, and yet I have yet to hear it discussed as a work that our children need to be protected from. I believe it's because these characters are white. Our protagonists and antagonists are white, and the secondary characters are the right color of non-white that make protagonists comfortable interacting with them. I urge the board to not make changes to Policy 6202 and leave in place the authority our school librarians have to choose materials whose narratives reflect the diversities within the schools themselves. Please do not let a group of adults transform our libraries into homogeneous shelves filled with these so-called classics. Let our students see themselves, find themselves, question themselves in the works that are available to them. It is our responsibility to encourage them to seek out these narratives, ask their questions, and provide a safe space for their learning experiences. Our kids are telling us who they are. We need to show them that we are listening and accepting of that. Thank you for your time.
All right, well, thank you. After that, I guess we'll, Ms. Siri.
All right. Good evening. So as I included in the board packet, tonight I was going to give you an update on where we are in the 6,000 series. So the first thing I would like to share with you is Valerie reported earlier, the subcommittee did meet last week, and we began to process those policies. I did collect all of the feedback that we received from patrons, certified staff, parents, and students, and collected that and aligned it with each policy where they documented their input, and so we began to go through that. We did make it through all of the policies one time. There are several in the 6,000 series, as you know, and so right now I'm working on taking those changes and making a first draft that I will share back with the subcommittee. There were a couple of ones that we still need to finalize decisions about, but that's where we're at in the process. And my hope is that at the next board meeting, we'll bring those draft changes to the school board, and I will share with you what each of them are. And then we would hope at the next board meeting we could move forward with those changes if that's what the board wishes to do. So that's kind of an update of where we're at. So questions that I could answer on that, or anything I forgot, subcommittee members that are processing through all of that?
I just want to reiterate that it was a very thorough process of going through those, and the way you documented it was very helpful to understand all the different contributions and how they applied to each of the sections, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the update.
You're welcome.
All right, well, that finishes up Section 4. Section 5, the future board calendar. As you mentioned earlier, Dr. Rickley, July 4th, the office will be closed for Independence Day, and our next board meeting will be July 10th here in Central Office at 6 p.m. So unless there isn't any other business, then I will adjourn this meeting at 7:54 p.m. Thank you very much.